Hello my friends, welcome on board. Today with this new training, CMAS Semantic TIA portal with the current version 17, we are going to start. And at these first videos, I want to tell you a little bit about the options and want to give you some information related with totally integrated automation portal of CMAS. And as you can see on my desktop, I have already installed from version 13 and time to time 14, 15 service pack 1, version 16 and 17. And during the service cases, if you are going on the field and want to take some upload from the real online partner such as CPU Step7 1200, and think about you don't have the original backup file of the project and it's developed with the version 13. If you already installed in your program that you can easily take an upload. And sometimes if you try to use the new version and you will get some errors related with the versioning of TIA portal, unfortunately. And for the older versions like 11 and 12, it's not possible to install the new Windows version 10. So that's why maybe you can consider about using of virtual machine or VirtualBox for run the image files of Windows, and inside the same computer it's possible to open the older project files. And another important thing is after version 13 the project structure or the database of TIA portal changed. That's why if you are trying to migrate, for instance with version 14 and try to open and migrate the project developed with version 11, so it's not possible, and that means you have to convert to version 13 first, and after that you can migrate to version 17. So keep it in your mind. And on the other hand, time to time there are additional features and innovations of TIA portal, of course, and let's take a look together. On the CMAS support industry website, if you go on search box and enter TIA portal, you will get product notes related with delivery release of the versions. So top to top, I opened each version information from version 13 service pack 1. And if you copy this enter ID and enter here, you will get the related page. So if you spend some time here, you can get information related with innovation and new functions of TIA portal. There are some highlights. For example, from version 13, Semantic Open Controller released and supported. Also, there are some simulation functions for Step7 1200. And many usability enhancements for efficient engineering, like local search instructions, open block synchronization, STL source can be exported with multi-selection, blah blah blah. And there is an order list document and compatibility with other Semantic products. Versioning and supported virtualization platforms, these kind of information. For version 14, for example, there's an overview of the main options like step 7, WinCC start drive, and Scout TIA. Also, there are some engineering options as sub options like multi-user engineering for developing the same project with multi-user, Teamcenter Gateway, Energy Suite, PLC Sim Advanced, and I have to mention there are two different simulations for TIA Portal. One option is basic simulation and the other option is PLC Sim Advanced. What's the difference? So basically the advanced optional package supported the multi-instance creation of PLC inside your computer. You can consider about your computer becomes a software-based CPU. So that means you can connect a real hardware like electrical terminals via Profinet or Profibus to CPU, and you can get the real input and outputs. Also, communication between CPU to CPU is possible to simulate inside your PLC. For quick note, also there are some runtime options like process diagnostics to create some software blocks and faceplates on the HMI side. So Energy Suite is for using the energy management products, and OPC Communication Unified Architecture is also released with version 14, possible to use for PC to PLC communication. Or time to time there are some innovations on the software program to use between PLC to PLC communication instead of step 7 communication. And you can read later on the details of the engineering options such as Cloud Connector or Open Development Kit for software controller or ET200SP Open Controller. And if you are developing some project for MATLAB, you can use Simulink in PC program. Also, additional development kit released by Siemens. Semantic Visualization Architect, another option for creating program blocks and organizing the rules for automatic creating on faceplates on the HMI site. And it's similar to PCS7 idea, another version for classical automation system. Process diagnostics also another option, and so on. And for delivery release version 15 service pack 1, you can see Sirius ES optional package, and there are some additional engineering options as you can see in the picture. And for new function overview, there is a document as PDF file. Also for version 16. And time to time it's really fast developed, and new functionality and innovations released by Siemens, for instance safe kinematics runtime option and OPC UA WinCC Web UX option, and you can use these links to related trial software download. And for the current version 17, WinCC unified the new software platform for comfort panels and PC-based WinCC HMI design released. Okay. And let's go and check the technical slides. This is for your information. I will quickly go page one by one, and later on you can download and spend some time to gain more experience and information related with TIA portal options. So highlights for hardware configuration, software and hardware redundancy with Step 7 1500 CPUs, high availability supported from this version based on standard CPUs. Also, for redundancy, you can use these kind of CPU types. Isochronous mode, MRP domain, the new version of firmware modules released. There are some innovations like multi-user engineering. You can see which platform supported this function. For example, software units. You can create the modular programming inside TIA portal. Properties and structure of the software. For structure control language, textual interface or table view selection, there are some minor changes, also some useful functional extensions, DB snapshots, or monitoring, archiving, retrieving project options. For WinCC HMI side, there are some new hardware, for example, mobile panel, KTP series with safety option released. HMI option plus with version 2 is also additional licensed software option for using QR code reader or OPC UA communication functionality inside HMI. And start drive for drive commissioning software package of TIA portal. Now it's possible to use the hardware Cinemix S210 with new released servo motors 1FK2, safety acceptance test and commissioning possibility. There's a start drive application to edit parameters in drives. There are some wizard pages for commissioning you can do by TIA portal. Integration of this product family S120, G150 and so on. So this is a detailed table view supported hardware and drives for control unit and CPUs. From this version of product family, supported components and details you can see. Just for your information, drive control charts from this version also supported inside TIA portal. You can program drive based automation and other highlights. the basic servo drive with standard and supplementary Telegram via hardware support package, and the micro drive DC drives with 24 volts low voltage motor and drives supported the used and configuration inside TIA portal, project upgrade, and simplified trace functionality and window, export, import, offline, online comparison, features, new innovations is also explained in this document. For TIA portal options, for safety side, new fail-safe communication, flexible F-Link released. Also, there is an openness option of TIA portal. You can create some scripts and write in Visual Basic language for modifying or automatically creating projects. It's possible outside of TIA portal. OPC communication, unified architecture. There are some software blocks inside CPU program. There is also some configuration tool, Xiaomi, modeling editor, and process diagnostics, step 7 graph, additional option for developing project. There are some control panel enhancements of PISystem Advanced. Team Center Gateway, visualization architecture, Energy Suite. And let's take a look together at the next version 16 released in November 2018. Highlights of WinCC Unified. It's a big step with next generation. So multilingual comfort panel, keyboards, PDF, process, printer, printing barcodes, logging strings, remote communication, additional extensions, and step 7, semantic innovations like openness support, importing, exporting SCL source, more detailed block comparison, commands in SCL language. There are some improvements on project trace, event simulation. For start drive, support of control unit 310-2 with PN version with these power modules and control unit adapters. Also, it's important to know when you are working with new hardware and new software, it's always be a good decision. It depends on the customer side also. For the maintenance guys, it's take time to go next step, get the licensed CMS software and install in their own PCs. So that's why maybe sometimes you keep using the old version of TIA format, because after the commissioning it's not possible to open and diagnose via maintenance guys. And at this case, you can download the hardware support packages from CMS support site and install in TIA portal to be keep updated. And some of the new hardware released, it's possible to use old version of TIA portal, but sometimes it's not possible to use the new hardware. So that the case, you have to go one step further to install the new version of TIA portal. Start Drive Innovations functionality DCC. Also for hardware, the new types of CPU released Step 7, 15, 13 Pro. New mechanical design and display integrated, and MLF pin number is changed at this case, and information spare parts compatibility. You can see here the code change, and successor type, IP forwarding, IT features, C2C, and on the web server JSON functionality is supported, and Step 7 1200 highlights OPC UA, email encryption with function attachment, send and receive email, the new modules with syncing option, project upgrade with older firmware, and walkthrough, new hardware ET200 CPUs, language package, support gateway, and version control interface in new feature. There are some add-ins. Openness is also, there are some tools to use easy scripting functionality with openness. You can write some scripts, or you can use the tool for modify and create your program or develop your project via scripting. It's very useful tool. A minor change for safety side, scale of analog inputs is possible. Openness extension, project server, configuration for multi-user benefits, and next item of highlights OPC UA, browsing, reading, subscription functionality, methods, alarms supported from version 16, diagnostics about sessions and connections, modeling editor, extended CPU, MFP, PI system advanced new function and compatibility information, simplified workflow, and there is another option, test suite. You can define the rules for programming and you can test check your project and blogs with this tool. Also test suite style guide checker, there's additional tool, and you need to consider maybe to standard program creation, application test, Swark, overview of new functions for Energy Suite, and so on. And as you can see, with each new version there are some additional innovations and highlights released with all of the options of Siemens TIA Portal Unified Panels is also a big step for efficient engineering. It's Linux-based firmware of comfort panels with different MLFB order number, and HTML5 based is possible to run efficient engineering for faceplate creation, scripting, and JavaScript will be used instead of Visual Basic script with unified system. New design templates from version 17, system diagnostics, and some standard interface for OPC UA. Also, it's very released new features in short time during this year of HMI side especially. You will see here the improvements of WinCC Unified and new functions related with WinCC Professional. So during the setup installation, there are some ways and packages for WinCC site, WinCC Advanced, Professional, and Unified. For example, if you have already installed version 15 WinCC Professional, and in your project you are going to use WinCC SCADA software, at that case maybe you should install WinCC Professional, because only one instance is possible on the same hard drive. So after, for example, version 16 released, you cannot install WinCC Professional. So at this case, maybe you think about uninstalling the old version and installing the new version of WinCC Professional. It's possible, or you can use some virtual machine. It's basically the similar thing for the WinCC Unified. Or if you are going to use some KTP or TP HMI panels, basic or advanced, you are going to need WinCC Advanced only. Okay. Some step 7 innovations, cause effect matrix. During this training, we will use some of these functions and make some exercises. At the end of the trainings, tips and tricks, one by one, I try to give some information about innovations of the latest version of TIA Portal, version 17, general extended functions, simplified search, downloading data blocks, improved line break, and so on, related with TIA Portal openness. Start drive supports with this hardware, and of course with each new version there are some minor changes and there are some major changes. Hardware configuration, offline online comparison, new redundant controller with safety, new hardware, and new features with MFP, industrial operating system based on Linux, C and C++ runtime possible to use with this CPU. Okay. New firmware features. General web server extensions, web server innovations like JSON, OPC UA functions, and really detailed information is given inside this document. Later on you should download and read. And the new drive-based controller, it's also an important hardware release. Maybe in the future the Simotion old CPUs will be replaced with this new hardware. CFC and DCC supported right now. There are some extended library functions. You can create your own user library, language packages, and the project upgrade information. As I mentioned before, the spare part replacement depends on the firmware, openness, compatibility with .NET framework, predecessor, and the new versions. Okay, user management, access control, and fast commissioning for safety, safe kinematics for motion control, runtime licensed. Another important option for robot programming in TIA Portal, it supported ABB, KUKA, multi-axis robots and manipulator with controllers. Then you can control inside SIMATIC CPU. There are some basic functions and additional features for motion control of robot, licensed library, extended range of functions, OPC UA, and highlights for other options, improvements in PISystem Advanced, supported the new SIMATIC drive controller simulation. Right now there are only two types of drive-based controller with safety functionality: strict motion timing. And after you complete this training, maybe you will take a look in your free time at this document to get more information related with integrated automation portal, because there are a lot of features right now released by CMAS. Maybe in the future you need to use in your projects, and it's always to know and gain information time to time. Of course, there are some new innovations and released. You have to take a look on the website and keep updated. So far so good. And before we will open TIA Portal and start the training, and this is the product overview picture of options for engineering and runtime. There are three icons on the right side of each optional package, and licensing and prices depends on the option you will choose. For example, it's possible to deliver via classical way, DVD, or you can choose software download with update support. it's cost a little bit less at this case. Also some of the options available in TIA Portal Cloud. And at least I suggest you to install step 7 WinCC Advanced and start drive during this training we are going to use. And for soft starters and Simocode products, you need Sirius ES option. There are some sub-engineering options like multi-user, Teamcenter, Test Suite, CFC and DCC supported right now. And for runtime options, you see the summary of product overview. So you can download the latest trial setup files from website with this entry ID. Step 7. Safety option you are going to need if you use failsafe input and output hardware with step 7 300 distributed safety or step 7 1200, 1500. It depends on your configuration. And you can get information, supported operating system, compatibility with other products, order list, and so on. Okay. Software update service that I mentioned. There are two versions of safety, basic and advanced. Okay. You can download DVD setup files for step 7 and WinCC, and you need to log in first via free username and password. Okay. And unfortunately you have to use a powerful computer, at least 16 GB of RAM with i5 or i7 CPU. I suggest you to install in SSD solid state disk, and it requires a lot of free memory, so at least maybe you should use 500 GB of SSD. After you download for install, these are the links. Okay, and that's enough for the first video, and at the second we will begin with opening TIA Portal and continue with the lecture notes, and see you then.